Hey everyone, welcome to the Rock and Metal Guardian. I'm Dane, your host. Today I'm going to talk about bands whose second album is better than their debut. So no sophomore slumps here. Before we get started, I want to talk about the three different variations of that theme. One, as great as the first album is, the second one is even better. Two, it's just plain better. Or three, it's just a smidge better. So let's get started now. And my first band of choice is Led Zeppelin. So Led Zeppelin 1, I find to be great. This, however, is a masterpiece. Now, when we talk about Led Zeppelin's debut, there are a couple songs on here that I find just okay, and those would be, they're average or slightly above average. Those would be Your Time Is Gonna Come and Black Mountainside. Everything on else here is much better than those two. This, everything on here is phenomenal. So that's why I rate them that way. Now, switching to thrash metal, we have Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good from Megadeth and the sophomore effort. All these long titles, right? P sells, but who's buying? Yeah, question mark, right? And this is a solid record. I think this is very good. This is a masterpiece. And like Led Zeppelin 1, although totally different, I don't want to compare them, but what I'll say about the only comparison is that the first album is not as well produced as the second for both bands. And all of the songs on here I like. On here I like all the songs, but like the Led Zeppelin, there just are a couple here that they're average, where everything on here is above average. So that's why that works out that way for me personally. Next, we're going to talk about Queen. Queen 1 and Queen 2, as they're called, concept album, and then the original, not a concept album. Now, these are neck and neck, almost. So this is just a smidge scenario. I like Queen 2 more because there's some tracks on here that just resonate with me more. They're a little heavier. You finally get, this is the only reason, you finally get a full version of Seven Seas of Rye. The synergy between tracks works much better, I think. For Queen 1, the great songs, the fantasy stuff on here is great on Queen 1, but it's not a concept. All this is fantasy, and I kind of gravitate towards that a lot. So Queen 2, just a smidge more than Queen 1. Now, Queensryche. Talk about their debut, not the EP, but the full-length first album. This is an album that I think is great. I'm sorry, this is an album I think is very good. This is an album that's great. This almost has the feel of a concept album because you have 4 songs that have a vampire feel to them. Walk in the Shadows and I Dream in Infrared are the 2 opening tracks, and they can be interpreted as the narration comes from a vampire speaking to his beloved. And then Gonna Get Close to You can also say the same thing, or you can argue that that's just about a stalker, but it still has a vampire feel to it because he's stalking someone. And then the song London. If you know the book Dracula, part of the setting is set in London. So that may be a stretch, but overall it still has that feel of vampire type songwriting, or rather thematically or plot-wise, with respect to vampire stories. Now, when you get a song like Screaming in Digital, this is a throwback to the first album, like, the NM156, the technology-infused human, or humans grown with technology, kind of like the Matrix kind of thing, where technology gets in the way of our humanity, if you will, the dehumanization of humanity. So it's a throwback to the first album. So this isn't a concept album, but it has the feel of it. And of course, you have the images of them in their gothic outfits, right? So it lends to that feel. Where here it's just we're all wearing black because it's, we're metal kind of thing. So Queensryche is our next one. Now we come to Rush. Big difference from here to here. And as most people will tell you, they're going to gravitate towards this one. This is where we're getting a new drummer in Neil Peart, and they decided to jazz things up a bit, literally. Their first crack at prog rock with By Torn the Snow Dog, one of my favorite Rush songs even today. And you get some fantasy bass songwriting, some simple hard rock tunes as well. You get in Fly By Night and Making Memories, more of a classic rock sound, right? Here it's more blues based, and you have their original drummer, John Rutsey, who wanted the band to stay in a bluesy Bad Company vein. Of course, that didn't work. As much as I like this one is just plain better. And I'll leave it at that. I like this one. This one's just plain better. All right. Next we come to Santana. This one is just a smidge, I think. Now, make sure I cover up part of the cover here. So we have Abraxas. I like Abraxas more than the first, but it's just a smidge. Something about Abraxas resonates with me just a slight bit more than the first one. They're both phenomenal. They're both masterpieces, but this one is just a better masterpiece, if that makes sense. So the sophomore effort from Santana, Abraxas, I listened to just a slight bit more. Next we come to Def Leppard. When we talk about the debut On Through the Night, when I talk about, there are 4 songs I gravitate to the most on this album. Now, do I like the whole record? I do, but there are 4 songs or tracks that stand out the most that I'm going to listen to, and the others I will skip from time to time. So the tracks I like the most are Rock Brigade, Hello America, Wasted, and Rocks Off. These are the heavier tracks. The other ones are good. These are fantastic. But then you get to High and Dry, my favorite Def Leppard album. This one is where Pete Willis, as a guitar player, comes into his own. He's got just an amazing, as good as the tone is on the problem with the first album is it's not as produced as well as this one, but still the songs in here are higher quality as well, not just because of the way they're produced, just better songwriting. It's heavier. This is an album I listen to start to finish most often than not, and I don't skip anything. So that's part of the reason why this is better. So this is much better than the debut, I think. So this qualifies as just plain better. All right. Next we come to Motorhead. Here's the debut. This is the 40th anniversary, so it's got a different cover, red and silver instead of black and silver or chrome. And you have the title track, the name of the band song, Motorhead, Vibrator, Lost Johnny, Iron Horse, etc. This is a great album. But this blows the doors. This is a masterpiece. So this blows the doors off. As great as the debut is, this is even better. So this qualifies as great as this is even better. All right. Now, moving on to a doom metal band that some of you may not be familiar with, but one of my favorite metal bands of all time is Electric Wizard. Here's their debut. It's got a cover, I think, from the same artist who did the Cathedral albums, and then Come My Fanatics, creepier. This is where they come into their own. This is so, I don't want to say, stylistically it's still doom metal, but it's less cliched as what was going on with the doom metal, and the album cover gives us away. This is kind of what you expect from doom metal, because the album cover, as I said, gives it away. What you can expect on this album comes from the album cover, like Cathedral and so many other bands at the time, or near the time, or close contemporaries. This is where Electric Wizard develops their own sound. So that's why. So this is plain better. All right. This should be no surprise. A cliched one, if you will. Rainbow. Okay. I love this debut. There's only one song on here I will occasionally skip, and that is Black Sheep of the Family, although I like it. And, of course, the masterpiece that is Rainbow Rising. And this is great. This is a masterpiece. So this is just plain better. You got more keyboards. You got better drumming, right? And You have songs that are, I think, better written, both compositional, instrumentation-wise, and song lyrics-wise. So, all right. Let's see. Next, we get to Yngwie Malmsteen. I love this album. Okay, I love this album. This album is great. Almost a masterpiece. This is definitely a masterpiece in my eyes. I don't like this album cover. I like the original that I had on vinyl. As a teenager, it was him on stage kind of crouching down, pointing his guitar at the audience, and he had red lighting, so red smoke in the background. I don't know why they changed but that's a small caveat. Now, this is not less in my estimation because it's mostly instrumental. I just think that the guitar playing on here is slightly better. They're both phenomenal, but this is even more phenomenal, if that makes sense. So again, this is great masterpiece. So this is a better, okay? All right. Next is Elton John. As most people have pointed out, Empty Sky 1969 is not very good, and I feel the same way. And then his self-titled 1970 Elton John is where he came into his own, and that is just, in many ways, the beginning of so many great things to follow. So this is definitely much better than the first. All right, next is David Bowie. Self-titled David Bowie 1967, more of a pop, I guess some mod in there. But then his sophomore effort is originally also called David Bowie to, hey, this is who I am now. This is the vein I'm going in. I'm reinventing myself. Of course, this is the first time he reinvents himself. And then it comes to be known as Space Oddity. And this is not a smidge better. This is just plain better than, I think, the Decca release David Bowie, the other David Bowie record, as we call it. But of course, to distinguish between the two, we call it Space Oddity. This has the title track, Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed, Letter to Hermione, Signet Committee, Janine, An Occasional Dream, Wild Eye Boy from Free Cloud, great song, Conversation Piece, God Knows I'm Good, I love that song, and Memory of a Free Festival, great way to end an album. So David Bowie. Next is Dokken. Their first album was recorded twice, and whether doesn't matter. I like Tooth and Nail better. On the first album, you get Breaking the Chains, Paris, which is live, which is okay. Stick to Your Guns and Night Rider. Those are the only 4 songs I listened to from the debut album, whether the original pressed on Carrere Records or I forget who pressed it the second time around. Tooth and Nail for me is where they really found their sound. So in a lot of these cases, it's where the band found their sound. The next is the Rods. Their first album was called Rock Hard, and then their first album was re-released with some alternate tracks called simply The Rods. Regardless of which one you refer to as the debut, it's really the second album, Wild Dogs, where they come into their own. They kind of have a slight UFO vibe, if you want to call it that. So this is a wonderful album. This is where it's just plain better. I like some of the songs. Well, I like the songs on either debut, but this is just so much better. So that's the qualification for that. Next is the band Sweet. We have Funny How Sweet Cocoa Can Be, a stupid name for an album cover. It's got, their picture inside of a candy wrapper twist thingy-majig, I guess, like a butterscotch, if you will, or something you get at Halloween. Lord knows what it is. This is the 2-disc set that you want to get instead. This is worth having, mind you, but you want to get the 2-disc set because it's got what's called the early years, and the disc 1 has bonus tracks. So if you get the original version, you're missing out on some cool songs. Regardless, I like the follow-up to this, which I'll get to in a minute. There's some good stuff on here. You have, of course, the title track. It's Coco. Close enough. Santa Monica Sunshine, Daydream, Sunny Sleeps Late, Spotlight. Done Me Wrong All Right is fabulous. Alexander Graham Bell was a hit. Little Willie, of course, Papa Joe, New York Connection, and Wig Wham Bam. Wig Wham Bam is, of course, also a hit. The Chapman and Chin mostly produced songs or lyrics written, right? But Sweet starts to pull away and become a little bit more heavier, or a lot more heavier with Sweet Fanny Adams, because you have songs like Set Me Free, No You Don't, which Pat Benatar would later on go on to cover. Sweet F.A., which is really heavy. AC/DC, Restless, Into the Night, Blockbuster, Hellraiser. The Ballroom Blitz is a bonus track. Rock and Roll. So you get into some heavier waters, thank goodness. One of my favorite bands of all time. So this is where, as I said, a lot of this, as I said, is where bands start to come into their own, kind of breaking away from corporate writers and the electric company, the record label telling them what to do. All right, next is Anthrax. This is a twofer. This is the first album, Fistful of Metal, with the EP Armed and Dangerous, which has Joey Belladonna on vocals. As much as I like the debut, Spreading the Disease is just plain better, start to finish. There's some songs on Fistful of Metal I don't care for. Although Across the River and Howling Furies, great way to end an album. Death from Above, not a big fan. I don't like their cover version of Alice Cooper's I'm 18. I love Metal Threshing Man, even the original version. All right. So if we talk about Spreading the Disease, standouts, Medusa, Armed and Dangerous, Aftershock, The Enemy, AIR, Lone Justice, Gung Ho is okay. All right, still better than the debut. Now, if you do not have, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So I did Dock in the Rods, Sweet. Oh, I skipped one. Neil Young. Neil Young's first album, his debut, is more on the folk side. I like it, but his follow-up, Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, with Crazy Horse, first time we have Crazy Horse with him, is just plain better than the first. And this is an album I don't have to skip anything. So, next is Genesis. From Genesis to Revelation. Now, depending on what source you have, some people say From Genesis to Revelation was released in 1969, and it was the first album before Trespass. Other sources say that no, Trespass was the first album released by the band, and then From Genesis to Revelation came out later. It has the 1969 stigma on it because that's when it was recorded, not released. So it depends on, can't believe everything, Wikipedia or other sources. I don't know which one is right. If I remember correctly, I think Trespass was actually released first. So, but if we talk about From Genesis to Revelation as being their first, Trespass is just so much better, even though it's not the classic lineup, because of songs like Stagnation and The Knife, those are my two favorite songs on the album, but I like Trespass from start to finish. Now, if we talk about, if we say that From Genesis to Revelation is not their first album that was put out much later, then that makes Trespass their debut, in which case I like Nursery Crime better than Trespass because you have the classic lineup for the first time. So depending on your bent, we have a twofer here with respect to Genesis. So Trespass is definitively better than From Genesis to Revelation, which I don't listen to it, I don't care for it, and I find Nursery Crime even better than Trespass. All right, next is Trapeze. Their first album has a moody blues vibe, which is okay, but when you get the change in lineup, you have Glenn Hughes on vocals. This is fabulous. Love the album artwork. Either as you can see, the name of the album is Medusa, and either that's someone being turned to stone and they're flipping out as they're turning into stone, or that's Medusa herself, and it's unclear. But I like to analyze album covers. It opens up with the fabulous Black Cloud, 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Jury is an 8 minutes and change song. Your Love Is All Right, Touch My Life, Seafull, Makes You Want to Cry, and then the glorious title track to close. There are only 7 songs in here, but this is fabulous. If you don't know this album, give it a go. Give it a try. I don't think you'll be sorry. So, Medusa, Trapeze. Now let's talk about Styx. that first album, their first 4 albums are on Wood and Nickel, the Wood and Nickel label, and there's some moments of the first album, Styx 1, that I like. And people have talked about this a lot, how you'd go in the record store in the 70s or 80s and you would see Styx 2, and you would see The Serpent is Rising, and you would occasionally see Man of Miracles. I've never seen Styx 1 on vinyl, or CD for that matter, until recently. So there are parts of Styx 1 that I like because I'm a big prog rock fan. But when you get to Styx 2, this is an underrated album. And you have the song Lady, which sounds like something that would belong on Equinox, Grand Illusion, Crystal Ball even. It sounds like a song when they were in their prime. But it's on their second album, and I really like Styx 2. Is it great? Is it perfect? No, but it's definitely much better than the first album. The first album has its moments, but Styx 2 is an album I can listen to almost from start to finish, as opposed to the first Styx album, where I pick and choose what songs I want to listen to, and occasionally listen to the whole thing in its entirety. All right. Next is Judas Priest. So we start with Rockarola. If you buy this, by the way, this isn't the complete albums collection anymore because it doesn't have, it goes up to everything including Nostradamus. It doesn't have the last 2, Redeemer of Souls and Firepower. I like this album quite a lot. I like the suite of Winter, which has Deep Freeze, Winter Retreat, Cheater. I love One for the Road. That's a great rockin' tune. Rockarola, the title track's fabulous. Never Satisfied's okay. Run of the Mill is so sad, but it's quite good. And Caviar and Mess is just a 2-minute instrumental, which is okay. Too bad they can't find the original 8-minute track or 7-minute track that had vocals and stuff. But this is a good album. It's not great. It's not a masterpiece. It's a good album. This is great. So this is much better than the original. Prelude, Tyrant, Genocide, Epitaph, Island of Domination, Victim of Changes, Ripper, Dreamer, Deceiver, /Deceiver. My least favorite are Epitaph and Island of Domination, but I still like them. All right, so Judas Priest. Next is the American band called London, not the British band London. And I think they have 3 albums. I only like the second one, the sophomore. The problem with the first one is the production is just awful. The mix is awful. I don't know who engineered it, but it's almost unlistenable to these ears. The second album, Don't Cry Wolf. The first album's called Nonstop Rock. The second album's called Don't Cry Wolf, and the first time I heard it, I thought I was listening to a Motley Crue album. It's that good. Well, Motley Crue, first and second. Well, Shout at the Devil, Too Fast for Love era. And it's a shame the third album, which I can't remember, has almost the same problems the first album has. It's not very good. And of course, Don't Cry Wolf, the second album by London, came out after Motley Crue's first 2 albums. So I think they intentionally said, hey, let's try to have a Motley Crue sound to it. So 3 more. And the next one is Mont the Hoople. And I very much like their first album with the Escher cover. Production-wise, not as good as what follows, although this one has some production issues, especially on one song with the squeakiness of a kick drum. And that's Mad Shadows, great album cover. Here you have You Really Got Me, a cover. It's instrumental, though. You have At the Crossroads, Laugh at Me, Backsliding Fearlessly, Rock and Roll Queen, as I said. And then Wrath and Roll to close it, and some other tracks here. You have the bonus track Ohio and Find Your Way, which is an instrumental, bonus tracks. This is a good album. This is not a smidge better. This is much better. So this is good. This is great, in my estimation. Thunderbuck Ram, No Wheels to Ride, great, slow, compelling song. Thunderbuck Ram is a heavier tune. You Are One of Us is really cool. Walking with a Mountain, the hit from this album, is fantastic. I Can Feel, Threads of Iron, and When My Mind's Gone are all great. There are a couple bonus tracks on here. It Would Be a Pleasure, and How Long, which is Death May Be Your Santa Claus, which pops up on a later album. I listen to this all the time. Mad Shadows, great album cover, great album in general. Not a masterpiece, but great. All right, finally, the band Sleep, and I don't have their debut except in MP3 format because you can't get it on CD. You can still get it on vinyl, can't get it on CD. The album cover has what looks to be Salvador Dali's face as if it was cut off with an X-Acto knife, and it's being held up by these rods, these black rods that have hooks in them to hold the face from drooping, but it's drooping anyway. So the album cover is an homage to Salvador Dali, the artist, because of his drooping clocks and things of that nature. And it's a weird album. I like it, but I have to be in the mood for it. It's very avant-garde for a metal group. I don't know how to describe it. You'll have to listen to it for yourself. But then their follow-up, Sleep's Holy Mountain. Now, I just got this about 6 months ago. I originally had this in MP3 format from a friend, a dear beloved friend, who likes music as much as I do, and we talk about music all the time. He's really cool. And the version he gave me has the Black Sabbath cover that they do for, not Supernaut, but Snowblind. And it's one of the best covers I've ever heard in my life. Unfortunately, when I bought this, I wasn't careful to see if it had the cover. It doesn't have Snowblind on here. But it's still worth getting whether you have the Snowblind cover or not. This is great start to finish. Dragonaut, The Druid, Evil Gypsy, Solomon's. Can never read the font sometimes. Solomon's Theme, Some Grass, Holy Mountain, and there are some other songs, but this is fantastic. This is much better than their debut. So there you have it, everybody. 27 or so sophomore efforts that are better than their debut, whether by a smidge or definitely better or close but still better. So don't forget to hit the notification button so you'll be apprised of all upcoming videos, especially for this week. And please hit the like and subscription button to help the channel grow. To help the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.